the first question is, how many of you saw Nate's message a couple of weeks ago at the 10:30 service? Not all of you. Okay, so hop online later, hob.nz, and watch that, because I also made a 5-minute cut of it as well with the main points. But to recap, Nate described faith and mentioned some of the things you could do to fully engage. Read your word, pray, which stands for praise, repent, ask, and yield. Go to church, join a life group, serve, worship, give praise, and disciple someone else. I really enjoyed his message, and that sometimes it's a simple one that helps us get back on track with knowing where we are at in a journey, or where we might be, what we might be lacking or missing out on. I was all set to preach last week, and then I tested positive for COVID. Not so helpful. So, but I've had an extra week to reflect on my message as it was and refine it. There's nothing like time to refine. Today I want to call my message Opportunities. I wanted to do a bit of a look back at my journey here at House of Breakthrough, but also look at some of the other opportunities you get when you're planted in a church. Firstly, no one here would doubt that the church is a vessel for spiritual growth. Most of us come here with very little knowledge in this area, and then as the years go by, grow, bit by bit, based on the words that we hear preached, the encouragement to read our word and get involved, and the testimony of our own lives that we pick up along the way and then relay to others to help them on their journey. There's personal development. A lot of the messages spoken on Sundays talk about the renewing and of upgrading of yourself, mostly so you can shut more of yourself out and let more of God in. But hearing testimonies in this area from people who have been through the fire, so to speak, are very uplifting, but often challenging, such as Nate and Shalina's recent messages and Pastor Scott's recent perspective message, where he was beating himself up on his own name until he saw how much weight that it carried. How about leadership and communication? I've talked to people that have known me for a long time, and they say to me they would have never expected that I would be standing in front of a group of people talking to them. It's just not who I was. And I dubbed it spiritual Toastmasters. Hey. You're encouraged to interact with other leaders here. You're encouraged to trust others and learn from them. And with events like Winter Fire, bringing people like Nate and Shalina to help bolster up some of that confidence. The church is a great place to learn about family and relationships. Another subject that, how many of you have seen the Mark Gungor DVDs on men and women, the way they work and all that sort of stuff? Because if you haven't, put your hand up. Maybe we should run another series of that, because it was really good for me. So if you haven't seen it, you get to learn how the man's brain is all like, full of nothing, and the woman's brain is and then you understand how the other side thinks, it's quite good. But there's also teaching from Lance and Margie as well, not to mention the series that Scott continues to run on how discipleship starts at home. So it's an opportunity to grow in that area. Community outreach is another area where the church can shine. From the food bank clothing giveaways, I see there's another one. There was a notice on the back door when I came in yesterday. I was like, what? We're always running things. It's great. It'll give you skills and opportunities to speak Jesus to people and enrich your own life. Not to mention how much the church will muck in when there's civil defence emergencies or a large tangi or something. Creativity is a multifaceted one where the church gets involved. There's music, being on the worship team. There's creating videos for notices. There's creating clips and promos. There's working with video and audio to produce works. I would love to see more work done in the missing creative arts. Writing, art, and painting. People in the front row, Pastor Jess, Aaron. These are ministries that are just waiting in the wings. And of course, the importance of being in a life group cannot be understated. And I was so happy to hear last week of Josh's plans to take his one to a next level. Now, all these things I've just mentioned, spiritual growth, leadership and communication, family and relationships, outreach and creativity, are all opportunities for you to get connected to something special in the church. Something made for the purpose of Jesus and the kingdom. In the scriptures, in Exodus 31, we come across two characters, Bezalel, son of Uri, from the tribe of Judah, and Oliab from the tribe of Dan. This is a chapter where God needs the tent of meeting constructed, the Ark of the Covenant, the furnishings, lampstands, utensils, basins, stands, woven garments, not just run-of-the-mill stuff. In verses 1 to 11, we see that God not only chose these two men, but he filled them with the Spirit of God, filled them with wisdom, knowledge, understanding, skills to work with gold, silver, bronze, stone, wood, and do crafts. And he gave abilities to the team and the people, and they all worked together on this. This chapter highlights the idea that God's given us the ability to develop and use skills and talents to create things of beauty and value. And maybe for those two characters, it was to create things out of gold and bronze, but for maybe us it is music or video art or painting or writing or something for the glory of God. Now, I was rather jealous that these chaps got both knowledge and wisdom. Usually I'm sure you only get one or the other. But working together in a team is sometimes the best opportunity you get, learning from others, with others, and then sharing your individual gifts. Let me talk about my ministry for a bit, and the great team of people I have working with me, who are hiding in the back there. As the production team, our ministry here at church is fourfold. One, supporting the preacher so they can be clearly heard and that any slides or media is available to them. Supporting the worship team so they can be heard and have access to any resources to assist them with the playing. Supporting the congregation by making sure they can interact with anyone speaking with sound and lighting and media. And supporting the community by editing the messages and notices so they can keep informed, catch up on a series, like when you go and watch Nate's message, or interact by giving a comment or feedback or maybe their own testimony on what they got out of hearing the word. At the heart of a good production team is the ability to do things with excellence, all to point people to Jesus at the centre. One of the reasons I wrote this message of opportunities is to talk about how this role in production has helped me personally. There were two pivotal moments that brought this about. One was at Kelly's funeral, and the other one was when Shine TV came to help our Maranga conference. Both these events helped set a trajectory for us to be a church that could be all we needed to be in our ability to be no longer constrained to the four walls when it came to our messages. Shine TV was so helpful in guiding us on selecting the right gear for our auditorium, and I am forever thankful to Michael Brown and his team. And as for Kelly, well, this original plan was his, and if he wasn't too busy in heaven, I'm sure he'd be down here playing with these new toys. But I'm keen to keep taking these things to the next level. I've noticed that one of the opportunities flowing on from this has not just been for the Sunday service, though. Getting all this equipment, the cameras and the lighting and streaming gear and stuff, means that this venue, this auditorium, is now more useful to our wider community. When we host a tangi here, the people at home get a close-up view on who's speaking. They can watch the people come and go. They can see the slides and music presented to those here, and generally feel a lot more connected than what they would get, for instance, if they were at the Evans Chapel and there was just a camera hiding at the back of the room. We've hosted conferences here for the Post-Primary Teachers Association, and multiple schools choose to have their prize givings here, and we look forward to hosting Sunrise School again this year. Personally, the opportunity to work with this equipment has given me the ability to advise other places as well. For instance, at work, the council chambers now use pretty much the same gear as here, which is cool, for their live stream and recording, because of the knowledge that I've learnt from here. The new pool complex, when you get to see it in a week or so, also has pretty much the same system running all the behind the scenes. And I'm hoping the local theatres will be the next to jump onto it. And I would also like to offer the advice and skills that we've learnt here to the other churches, so they can all keep up to date with all the modern gear. Amongst the team that work in production, people are getting to use equipment that is not only used in small churches, but also up to mega churches and television broadcast studios. You go there and you'll find they've got the same gear. Might be a little bit bigger, but it's the same gear. And for many of the team, this may not be what they're going to choose as their career, but it's a skill that they can rely on. Think of music, for example, where the church is the place to set the foundation for a future career. I looked up some names of people that started singing in church at a young age, and it gave me names like Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, Beyonce, Katy Perry, Dolly Parton, Elvis Presley. All people who grew up singing in church and learned to refine their gift through that before it became their career. So in this generation, will the church again be a place where a career can be developed in new ways for video editing or broadcast mixing or lighting, or all while pushing out those tent pegs of the kingdom of God? Will the church be known as the place to be when it comes to connecting people who have those skills, combined with Christian morals and ethics and a desire to do everything with excellence? Look at the 7 waka on the wall to your right. Those are some opportunities for growth right there. These waka are important to our church. They are not waka that Pastor Norm saw in the water and showed to God. They are waka that God showed to Pastor Norm. A God plan. And at times a God plan can look impossible to a human mindset, as it says in Luke 18:27, what is impossible with man is possible with God. And I encourage you to go and read the little placards next to the bottom of them there, and think about the opportunities that they represent in our community. And remember that the church is a training ground, a proving ground, and a place for opportunities to be learned, refined, and deployed. Consider the employment waka. Deuteronomy 28:12, the Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season and to bless all the works of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. Helping people gain employment that lines up with their God-given abilities and passion. If I think about my own ministry again, the production team has definitely been a training ground. We've only got the ability to properly record and publish our messages online in the last couple of years, and there's been some trial and error. There's been missteps. It doesn't always go perfectly, but it goes, and it goes well. I looked at the stats on Facebook for the last month. 6,000 minutes of video have been watched from our channel, from our page. 25% of that from viewers who do not follow the church's page. 30% of the videos are shared from members to other pages, maybe their own or something. And this is without paying Facebook or whatever a cent of, we didn't have to boost these or do advertising or anything. People are finding these words and they're sharing them because they enjoy them, and that's working, they're getting something out of it, and that's just awesome. 6,000 minutes, hey. What's the average message, 30 minutes or so? That's a lot of stuff. That's God being heard in people's homes every day. It might be preached on a Sunday, but it's being heard 7 days a week. So it's just amazing. And I must admit, I watch a lot of videos on YouTube from church worship and tech teams around the world to show how they put together their services, so just to upskill. I do need to be careful not to be too starry-eyed, because otherwise Pastor Lance gets a list of all these things we definitely need, but we don't. Because technology, of course, is a means to an end. It's a tool. We must not lose sight of the one that we are all here for. I'm hoping this message comes across well. But to sum it up, like those who grew up singing in church and are now professional singers, I think that the church needs to consider itself a training ground, a battleground, a refining ground for the different types of opportunities, and we need to embrace them. It was discussed in a leaders' meeting not long ago, what makes a ministry? If we have the skills and can gather a team of like-minded people, can we build something? I think back to Nate's message, hob.nz. If we just serve and disciple, what a great way to connect people to Jesus. I mean, you might get someone involved in one of these little offshoot ministries or teams as just a helper, and that's going to bring them to Jesus. It could bring their whole family, but who knows? Well, he knows. Pastor Jess has recently given me a book called The Honour Key by Russell Evans from Planet Shakers Church in Australia. He writes about honouring gifts and talents. He says, when we honour our gifts and talents, as well as those of others, our service creates credibility. Credibility then creates influence, and our influence creates an atmosphere. Atmospheres change cultures, and and a culture of growth produces seed that bears fruit. Without activating your gift by honouring it, or without someone releasing your gift by honouring you, the process of order cannot start, which denies the earth your fruitfulness. In closing, maybe the opportunity has always been there in you and the people around you, but maybe you didn't see it. Or maybe you tried and failed and haven't tried again. Or maybe you haven't connected that opportunity to Jesus. Luke 5:1 gives an example. Jesus is standing by the lake of Gennesaret and gets in a boat and asks for the boat to head out to deep water to let down the nets for a catch. Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they'd done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. They signaled to their friends in the other boats to help, and the boats were so full they began to sink. It may be said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. But you can see in the example above that when you connect the opportunity to fish with God, honouring his position, he changes the atmosphere to one of provision, and in that case to one of overflow, and to one that benefits all. I hope that encourages you on any opportunities you're considering doing in the church today. Join a life group, help a ministry, build the church, serve, and disciple. Thank you.